Good afternoon. My name is Robert Beamish. I'm a global shaper with the Ottawa Hub in Canada, and I'm joined by a gentleman who needs no long introduction, Mr. Ray Dalio. Ray, you're being described as one of the 100 richest men by Forbes, one of the 100 most influential people in the world, and now you've built Bridgewater to overwhelming success, and here we are now. Here we are today. What are some of the keys to success and beyond success, fulfilling success to a fulfilled life that you've seen in your experience?
Well, first of all, I think you have to define what success is for yourself. I don't think it's the accoutrements of necessarily making the most amount of money, you know. I think there's a life journey you're on, right? You're born not knowing anything. And in order to be successful, you have to deal with reality well. And through those dealings with reality, then you learn what is it that's important to you. Why what are you going after? And that'll probably evolve over a period of time. And what's most important, I think, is that you accept reality as it is and you deal with your realities in a way that gets you what you want, even though you're constantly discovering what you want. So I think it's very important to know your nature. What am I like? Different people are have different natures. You know, some are left-brained or right-brained and so on, and they go after that. But I would say, as a generalization, the most important thing is to have meaningful work and meaningful relationships. If you have meaningful work that you're pursuing a passion that you're after, and that you have meaningful relationships, not only in your work, but beyond your work, that is for most people a meaningful life. But you have to own your life. You have to own the consequences. And I would say that one of the most important things to know is what you don't know. One of the greatest tragedies that I see in people is that they hold opinions that are wrong. And you have to realize that what you don't know, how you deal with what you don't know, is so much more important than anything that you know. So that you have to take in all the time, take in from others, take in from your real world experiences as you're going through and learning. Part of that is trial and error. Part of that is failure. You can learn more from failure than you can learn from success. Because if you're successful at something, then maybe you know how to do it already, or maybe you're lucky to do it that way. If you can reflect on your mistakes, it's like learning a sport or learning anything. If you reflect on your mistakes so that I have a principle, pain plus reflection equals progress, right? Because you can learn from those mistakes. These are general things. So you have to know, what are you going after? How does reality work? How do I own my life so that I learn and deal with the realities well to get what I want?
That's really well said. I know you spoke about principles there, and you've written about principles, and I know that these are really tangible ways to ground people. I suppose self-awareness and humility. So I'm curious, what do you see as the importance of principles as we navigate our lives personally, professionally, financially, and collectively into the future?
What I discovered at an early age, and I really would recommend everybody do this, whatever the age you are at, is that when I would make decisions, I would pause and reflect on the criteria that I would use to make the decisions. And in doing that, I would reflect better on the criteria that I'm using to make those decisions. And I would also put those out there with other people and say, are those good criteria by which I'm making those decisions? And so we understand each other better. I think too many people just do, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing that. And they're not reflecting on how they're doing. And almost everything in life has been done by other people before or all the time. Think about if you have, you run a company. Okay, now you're just running and doing. Okay, So when you can reflect on other people's principles and your principles, thank you all for being here so that it gives me the symbiotic joy of being able to convey some of the things that I learn. And then I hope I pass those along and you can come back. And so it's that open-mindedness and learning. And when you reflect on your principles, recognizing that almost everything that's happened has happened many times before. And so there are lessons to be learned. You don't have to just blindly do.
It's really interesting you mentioned this because I think when we think of your success, we think of a lot of the financial success, but a lot of things you're mentioning here around self-awareness and reflection and things that can be done regardless of your status, position in life, of where you are in the world, of a deep level of self-awareness in that process, which can be difficult because sometimes action can be so prioritized. But reflection to be intentional about that action is really what I'm hearing from you.
Yes. I hear so often that people say life can be difficult, as though that's an excuse for not dealing with it well. Okay, so it's difficult. So how do you approach it? Okay, calm yourself down and then say, how does it work and how do I deal with it? One of the things that's helped me a lot was meditation, transcendental meditation. Okay, just because it sort of gets you in a state where and if you care to, I'll explain how it works, but almost to go above yourself. And you're saying, here's reality, here's me. I think life is more like a video game than like at school, okay? Like in school, it's like, remember this, remember this, remember this, tell me what you remembered. And then if you remember well, then you're a smart person and it produces this arrogance and so on. It's more like a video game where, like you have your goal and then you encounter things, and through your encounters, then you learn lessons, and then those lessons become sort of points that you can then build on to move along that way. So I think if you approach life, like think about what is that? And yes, it's difficult. Life has obstacles. Life brings you problems, okay? Including your weaknesses. Yes, you have weaknesses. How do you work well with other people so that you can be successful even though you have those weaknesses? So it's the puzzle to solve. As you're solving that puzzle and you're saying there are no good excuses. The bad thing is when you say life is happening to me or life is difficult. Hey, it's difficult, therefore be good at it. Okay?
Trying.
Because if you're not, the key is to struggle well. Life is a struggle if you want to be there. So struggle well. If you don't know how to struggle well, if you're weaker, then life is going to be more difficult for you. So you go above it, just do the things that are necessary.
I really like that. To me, it gives resilience, but resilience in a way that's more internal, that's founded from a deep level within here that's then overflowing out.
And it can almost be the thrill of learning from mistakes. It can almost be thrilling, right? Like I developed a view like if I make a mistake and it's painful, I will learn something about reality. Okay, how does reality work, or my interaction with reality? I'll learn something from that. So my mistakes become puzzles for me to solve. What does it tell me about reality? And what does it tell me about how I should deal with reality? And I know that if it's like a game, if I find that reality and I solve that puzzle, I'll get a gem. The gem will be, what will I do next time in that position so that I will have a better deal with my realities better? And so it can almost be that it changes your visceral or habit reaction to making mistakes. Because you say, oh, it's a puzzle, it's a learning experience that I can build on. So it's not just the resilience of it, there can be also a thrill to it.
I agree with that. I like that. And I think we're going to have some time for questions from the floor as well, but we'll get there. When it talks about being able to, when you talk about these challenges that you face and the pain in plus reality to make progress, where does passion fit in that? And passion in your work and how you've integrated passion into your work as well.
I think, I have a principle that your work and your passion should be the same thing. And don't forget about the money part. But the money part is only important up until a certain amount. Okay, money will give you freedom and it'll give you power and allows you to do those things. But I think that yes, your work and your passion should be the same thing. If you can do it, you'll probably be better at your work and you'll have a wonderful life pursuing your passion. Passion is very important. I'm here for a certain passion. And what is my passion? Right now, it's to pass along what I can to, because I'm 74 years old and that's my responsibility. And I'm excited to be here. I'm here because of my passion.
How do you keep that passion alive to nurture it
Just
and
pursue the things I want.
don't neglect it? What water grows, what you water grows. I think of that with the plants that we have around us. You see a plant, you water it, and that will ultimately grow. Similar with your own passion.
Passion, you feel it or you don't feel it.
So when you don't feel it, how does that? How do you use that as an indicator for your
I
life?
think if I don't feel it enough times in something I'm doing, I'll go on to something else. I think so many people get trapped in, I have to do this thing without realizing that they can stay in that job or stay in that company or stay in that environment that is not allowing them to evolve. And they will accept a substandard life because they simply don't know that they could make other changes to make their lives better. They don't go out there and make their lives better. So passion is a motivator, right?
I agree with that. Thank you. Love to turn to the floor to get some questions from the audience. Hey, right over here.
Okay, I'll describe it. I'm so happy to describe it because I would say it's the biggest gift I can give anybody because how you approach life is the most important thing. And so the way it works is there, there's a sound which is called a mantra. A popular one might be Om, for example. You've heard that. And you sit there quietly with your eyes closed and you repeat that in your mind. And in repeating it in your mind is unable to think about other thoughts. So you sort of go back and forth. You'll say, to use an example, and then your thoughts will pop back, and then you notice that. And so there's through the practice of doing that, you'll start to get in the habit of being able to stay in Om, or whatever the mantra is, and then that will disappear. Okay, and then you'll go into a subconscious state, or pretty much in a subconscious state. It means like you're not aware, you're not conscious, and you're not unconscious. Like if there was a noise like this, you would, you'd be, if you were sleeping and unconscious, you wouldn't get that. And so then when that's in that, as you go into the subconscious state, then you are connecting your subconscious with your conscious. Because by and
Mm.
large, there's the conscious mind, which we are all aware of. That's why they call it conscious. And then there's the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind has a bigger control on you than your conscious mind. Your instincts, your reactions, your emotions, or even the creative parts of it, which is your inspirations, creativity. Like if you want to be creative, it's not like you're going to muscle it. It's almost like go take a hot shower and the ideas will flow to you. Okay? So it's that transcendence kind of into that kind of state. It also has the effect of bringing you above yourself. And, in other words, okay, it gives you an equanimity, but that I mean a centeredness, a calm centeredness, so that you can say these things are coming at me and how do I approach those things? So it helps to align the subconscious with the conscious. Okay, this is a big thing because we get messages from both. And if our subconscious and our consciousness align, and we say, oh, what I'm feeling here is also logical, it's probably the
Mhm.
right thing to do. Or if the one needs to check the other. And when it comes down out and you become also more creative and so on, and you can go above it and you say, this thing is happening, and how do I deal with my reality in a calm, effective way? It's a great gift. So that's how it works. Uh, Typically, um, 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes in the evening, but I'll grab it when I can. And it's a pleasurable experience. And it also gives me the equivalent of sleep. 20 minutes of meditation will give me like 3 hours of sleep. So I almost gain time. I certainly gain effectiveness. Like I tell people, if they say, I don't have time to do it, that means you need to meditate twice as much because you'll be able then to be able to deal with your things with equanimity. Like in order to be successful, you have to have other people working with you. Right? You can't be successful alone, right? So then you think about how do I get leverage? Like the work-life balance. You know, you think about the work-life balance, and people think of that as a trade-off. How much time do I devote to work? How much time do I devote to life for my family and so on? What they don't realize is if you go above it and you think, okay, how do I get more out of an hour? And how do I work well with others? Then you get more capacity. You don't have to limit as much, either of those two things. And when you start to approach it with that kind of a way, then you work well with others and they get leverage. I mean, the key to being really a ninja at this thing is that you work well with others so they do things for you and you can accomplish great things and they have great experiences. That whole notion really comes from like if you approach life well, make those decisions. No, it has nothing. It's almost the opposite of that. Here's the problem actually with it, or it's a wonderful problem. As you transcend, then these ideas that you never thought of start to bubble up. And then you want to give attention to those ideas. It's almost like I want to keep a pencil and paper next to my where I am meditating. And what you begin to learn is that if you have to give those away because you're going to come into your consciousness. But then, okay, no, you just give that away and you go into this void sort of there. And then you start to approach how you're thinking differently with that. And you won't lose that, but you'll carry it around with you in a sense. Hmm?
Appreciate that. There's a question right here in the back. Yep, yourself.
Um, I learned through a combination of my experiences and then reflecting on others. And of course, I've had my heroes, the people that we all have our heroes. You know, there are many in many different ways. People who are ahead of me and also I learn from, right? And so there were many, many. It depends on their domain, but many, many. And they don't have to be, by the way, the most successful ways people in the greatest areas. They can also be approaches to life. Well, I had um, Paul Volcker was for me a great man. He was head of the Federal Reserve. He was did in finance, but more importantly, he was a man of high character as well as capabilities. Character and capabilities are the two most important things. Then there was a man who was a scoutmaster for my sons, and I mean he was a scoutmaster for the whole troop of scout. But what he was like in terms of how he would uh, teach the values, good values, and through doing and through those experiences. Then there was another man who was a headmaster of a school, and who would be very modest man. The one man that I just mentioned, he was actually a garbage collector. Okay, he had a truck, and he would go around, but he knew character, and so a very very humble man. I was very lucky to have a wonderful friendship and learn from Henry Kissinger, who I admired very well. So there are very famous people. I could list a number of famous people who I learned from a lot from. Okay, and by the way, I would tell you that the most successful famous people are are the ones who are most humble in a sense, because humility is a reflection of open-mindedness in terms of that. And by the way, I think His Royal Highness is a great man, is a man that I'm inspired by and I view as a heroic figure. I don't pick who he's eager over there, but I don't make these decisions.
Right in the front row, right here.
Hey, I met you at the FII last October. As your advice to the young talents, create a legacy, financial services, because I am an investment banker as well, and there are tons of investment bankers who haven't left a legacy like you did. You have very respectable brand as Bridgewater. What's your recipe for this legacy for all of us?
Understand the elements of success and be a good mentor. I mean, first you have to have good principles that are going to be valuable to help people. I think what is valuable is to have high level of personal evolution and to contribute to evolution. I think that we are genetically born that way. And so but you can't form a legacy until you have something to give. So through that humility, then you learn and you try to pass it along, and you have the joy. And I would say, write down your principles, okay? Because I think of all of you many of you will have children, and write down your lessons and be humble. I mean, humble means that you accept your weaknesses, you accept your mistakes, you're realistic about these types of things and how you learn from them and become that way. So do that, and then make mentoring as you get to that phase in your life. I think the issue is there are 3 phases in life. This is the way I look at it. There's the first phase in life when you're learning from others and you're dependent on others. It's when you're in school and you're dependent on others. And I think that's a very misleading experience, because study hard, give back what you want. Oh, I'm a bright kid and I got high grades, and that means you think that you're smart and you don't know how reality works because you haven't dealt with it. Then you come to the second phase of your life. And in that second phase, your others are dependent on you. You're learning how to work. You have free choice. You can go anywhere in the world. You can have any career that you want. You have your experiments, and then others are dependent on you. And as you go through that, you learn. So as you're transitioning, if you're young, you have to think, this is the first year of the second phase of my life. I don't know how reality works yet. So it's that humility. And then you learn that it's quite often the opposite of school. In other words, what you don't know is more valuable, and how you evolve. And then you get to, as you approach the third phase of your life, which is then to pass things along, okay? And then then whatever gifts you give are what you've acquired. You've acquired those things in terms of maybe principles of life that work for you. That's the most important thing. And then, but also whatever it is, your wealth, whatever you've acquired, it's now that the phase of life that you have to pass it along. And that is your legacy. What do you pass to the next generation? But you have to acquire those things in order to pass them along.
You have a question right over here. Yeah, yourself. Yeah, it's you.
Hi, how are you?
Hi,
My
I'm
name
good.
is Ingrid Naranjo, and I wanted to ask you about the sponsor. How do we convince other executives and get them into this? I don't see that support. What would your comment?
Well, I don't know that I know enough about the subject, okay? You always have to find out why it is in their interest. Okay, you have to be practical. If you just say you have to, then that sounds like an obligation to do something I don't want to do. Okay? So whatever the path is, It has to be that you see things well enough through others' eyes that you can actually show them why it is that that's going to be something they want to do. So that's a general rule, okay? But if you don't do that, and and then of course habit is very important. So the environment they're in, and what that environment, and then how that adjusts to affect their habit. That these are very important things. Habit controls us more than anything. So I would say not understanding that particular area very well, I can't tell you how to deal with it, but I would say they have to want it and they have to get in the habit of doing it.
We have time for one more question. I see right there. I can't see the person. I see the hand. Yeah, that's you. Wonderful.
Thank you. So one of the objectives of the pavilion is to lessen the gap between youth and leaders, to bridge the gap and explore more opportunities to understand each other towards solving some of the global challenges that are being discussed in WAC today. What's one piece of advice you would give leaders and one piece of advice you would give youth to bridge this gap?
Uh, First, see things through others' eyes. Okay. If there's not understanding, that's almost the biggest problem. And then through that mutual understanding, try to solve the problem by going above it and being practical. I'm a co-chair of something called Goya, okay, which has to do with climate issues. And the biggest issue of the climate issue, only 1/6 the amount of money that needs to go to climate financing is going to climate financing. And that is because you have all these people who say, you should do this. The world will be better in doing that and so on. And it ends up with 1/6 the amount of money. You have to understand who has the money. You have to be practical. Who has the money and what are their motivations? And then if you do that, like profit is a great motivator. And so if you inject those practicalities into it, then I think you're going to make a lot of progress. And so the exciting things that I see here is those things going on when, okay, I gain understanding. Okay, and how do we work together? And then also realize that the greater good, the win-win, it's true of almost all great religions in a sense, that what it is how do we work well together? And it could be karma or do unto others as you would have them do unto you, so that you can go to a higher level and have a better community. And so if you can do that together, but you have to have that mutual understanding and empathy from that higher level.
I want to wrap this up. Ray, I really wanted to know how much you spoke about creating the internal environment for success. You spoke about humility, resilience, awareness, and meditation to have success flourish in the different ways. It could look like having your own hedge fund. It could look like being a youth who's making social impact. And so creating that internal environment. So I want to ask you one final thing. What would you say to the individual who might be starting on their meditation, self-reflection journey when they think that this is too much or this isn't taking me anywhere? Maybe to that person who's maybe letting go of meditation or letting go of self-reflection in order to encourage them down that path.
Just get the feedback. Are you getting the consequences you want? Think about the difference between first order and second order consequences. One of the great tricks in life is that second order consequences are often the opposite of the first order consequences, meaning what is the most delicious food? Okay. And maybe it's not the food that is going to give you what you want in terms of that. How do you feel about exercise? Okay. It may be painful as a first order consequence, but it gives you a second order consequence. Mm-hmm. Okay. Is it giving you the consequences that you want? Okay. As long as it's giving, and that is part of the discovery of life, I would say. So you think about, so if you say that you're not going to meditate, hey, that's fine. That's your choice. Okay. Is that giving you the consequences you want? If you go above yourself and you say, I would like to do that, but I'm not getting myself to do that, then, which is, by the way, an important thing. if I'd like to do that, but I'm not getting myself to do that, then you have to think about why and how you do that. And that's why I'm saying, for example, habit is an important science. Understand the science of habit. So, because habit will motivate you, you know, and then you say, I can acquire that habit anyway. So you have to get the consequences you want.
Thank you very much for this conversation.